Welcome to my series about all Chopin's music. Today, this beautiful song without words. And it's not Mendelssohn, who wrote many songs without words. Maybe you know. It's of course Frédéric Chopin and his Prelude in A flat major, Opus 28, number 17. 17, so our journey through preludes is slowly coming to an end. Today we have the evening of beautiful melodies, of a song, of the music which Chopin was most famous of. But the way it's written doesn't really remind us Chopin from his nocturnes or second themes of the sonatas, I think, because why? Because of the accompaniment and because of the way it's written. Maybe it was inspired by Mendelssohn, or I think by Schubert, because there is quite a lot of things that Schubert was doing in his songs and sonatas and in his music. Of course, Chopin didn't know a lot of Schubert's music, but we know that he played some of his songs as a pianist. And he knew, of course, a lot of his music, but most likely he didn't know his piano sonatas because they were not published. They were published later, I mean, many years after Schubert's death. But the way that the accompaniment is constructed reminds us of Schubert. What do we hear? First of all, a song, but also what is maybe surprising for a listener is the ending. And this bass, this one note repeated 11 times in the bass. And there is a story behind it, which I'm going to tell you when our analysis approach this final part of the prelude. So please stay until the end and you will know a very beautiful, fantastic story of how Chopin himself played this part. As you can probably guess, I'm playing it the very similar way to what I read how Chopin was doing. But a little different because I'm using also the all what the modern piano can offer me. Later I will explain to you. But now let's start our analysis. As I said, it is kind of like a song, and we can't help thinking about it like that because we have one melody sung by a singer and the accompaniment. What is difficult in this prelude, because trust me, it's not easy. It's not an easy prelude to play and to learn, because there is a lot of notes. The harmonies are rich. And what is difficult, that the accompaniment, so the piano part in the song, is split into two hands. Left hand is playing the bass and some parts of the chords, but right hand is split into half and also has to play some notes that belongs to the chord. What is the difficulty? Well, first of all, it's extremely hard to beautifully sing using these shortest fingers, this one and this one. And here, unfortunately, we have to do it all the time. And also, the balance of the sound is quite difficult to achieve because we have a lot of notes in the piano part, a lot of notes in the accompaniment. We have to hide them. The singer must always be on the first line. I mean, we have to hear the singer all the time. Okay, now the analysis. So everything starts from a short introduction, like the piano part. One repeated note, just like in Schubert's music. And this repeated note is coming closer to us and then coming away, going away. This is exactly what Chopin writes. Go crescendo and then diminuendo. And the singer is coming. And now let's analyze part A. Part A is quite simple, but you will be surprised by the way how Chopin constructed phrases. Now, very short phrase which consists of 5 notes, 5 short notes and 2 long notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2. Right? And look, listen again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2. Second phrase. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2. Again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2. And the fourth time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. And there is no 2. And this is the first phrase, antecedent phrase, as we know already, in our first musical period. Then the consequent phrase is the same, exactly the same, has a little different ending, but is in forte, so we have more passionate singing. But isn't it typical Chopin? No, at all. As we know, Chopin usually wrote short, short, long. He wrote different melodies. So I don't know, but I have the impression that in this piece, Chopin was inspired by some other composer. Maybe Schubert, maybe Mendelssohn, or maybe some opera, I don't know. But he tries something else. He's obsessively repeating one phrase. But this is part A. And part A ends, the melody is beautiful, right? It makes us feel happy, warm inside, maybe love. We feel good. And so now the challenge for the composer is what to write after such a fantastic melody. What to do? How to develop it? Well, it's Prelude, so Chopin could also have easily just finished it, but he didn't want to. Instead, he's doing some miracle, something extremely amazing and taken from Schubert's music. After the second phrase, this consequent phrase, Chopin is immediately, without any preparation, any modulation, changing the key and changing all the flats to sharps. If you know what I mean. If you're a musician, you know what I mean. These are signs that we have just at the beginning of the line to tell us which of the white keys are being black during all the piece. Well, this is the easiest way how I can explain it. So, what does it mean? It means that the second melody, because now we will have the second melody, part B, is from another world. It's from the world of the sharps. Whereas the first was in A flat major, was of the world of the flats. It's incredible, especially for musicians. But our subconscious, even if you're not a musician, if you don't know anything about notes, the feeling, you should have the feeling of sudden change of color. This is what Chopin wanted. And when this change of color starts, we have the second melody. And now listen how the second melody is constructed. And I play for you, of course, you know me already, I play for you a little bit the end of part A and the beginning of part B, so that we can experience together this change. So the end of part A. And now. This is the second melody. How it is constructed. Also short phrases. The phrase is now like this. Long. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Long. many times? Well, 3 times this time. Also, the same way of constructing phrase. 3 times. And when we reach the high note, then we just fly. You know, but we fly like this plane without an engine. I forgot the English word. Maybe you can write in the comment. The plane without the engine that is just flying down. We fly down using the chromatic scale. And now the conclusion of part B, which is quite important because it will reappear again later. I love here to show the duet, because here there is a hidden second voice. This melody that we hear is in octaves, so there are 2 persons. And maybe you noticed in my playing that when I play it, because it's repeated 2 times, first time I show her, when I play the whole, I show her. Second time I show him. Okay, and this is the end of part B. Then we have a short modulation. And this loud is not me, not my interpretation, it's Chopin. He writes forte fortissimo. So no jokes at all anymore. A huge passion. We have a passionate explosion of this beautiful melody in forte fortissimo, but only the first phrase, only the antecedent phrase. Of the consequent phrase, we immediately have part C. Next melody, melody number 3. So Chopin is very generous in this prelude. Another new beautiful melody, again in sharps. Again he changes the color from flats to sharps. So what does it mean? It means that the key A flat major is reserved only for the first melody. It has some meaning, definitely. All the other melodies are from another world, from the world of sharps. So how is constructed this part C? In a little different way, because it consists of like 2 parts. But let's listen. The first part also has first motif, long, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and long, long. So long, 3 short, long, long, and then it goes up. And then it's repeated exactly like the same, but 1 note higher. And it should have been repeated 3rd time, because our subconscious is already prepared for that. It happened in part A, it happened in part B, it should happen in part C, right? And now, no, Chopin is genius. He was genius. He knew that we all expect him to repeat for the 3rd time the phrase. So he instead is doing again this flying from the using the chromatic scale. The last melody. And what do we have now? Yes, the duet, exactly the same conclusion. The conclusion that we had at the end of part B. So now let's listen again to the whole part C. 2 times we will hear the same phrase, and then instead of the 3rd time we will fly down where we meet the last melody and then the conclusion. occlusion. And now this last sequence with the bass. Now I have a quotation for you from the book Chopin as seen by his pupils, written by Jean-Jacques Eigeldinger, and now I have it in Polish, but it is possible to get it also in English, but I will quote for you and translate for you what I have here. This is actually written by Ignacy Jan Paderewski, very famous Polish pianist, who was born at the second half of still the 19th century, and he died in the first half of the 20th century. He was one of the most famous, if not the most famous, well, one of the most famous Polish pianists at that time, and a legend. And he wrote a diary, very beautiful. You can find maybe and read. It's a great read, really. And he writes something like this. I remember, writes Paderewski, that one day I played the 17th Prelude by Chopin to Mrs. Dubois. Who was Mrs. Dubois? Mrs. Dubois was Chopin's student. Then after, she immediately told me that Chopin played it differently. The end of the prelude, he played like this. He was banging with all his power one note in the bass. Banging with all his power. Well, maybe Chopin didn't have a lot of power, but still it was banged by him. And he was doing the diminuendo in the right hand at the same time. But this one note in the bass was always equally banged with full power, and Chopin thought it was very important. Chopin said, that it must be exactly the same all the time, because it should remind the sound of very old clock in the castle. Old clock in the castle who just ring or bell, right? 11 o'clock. That's why we have 11 bells in the left hand. That's why Chopin insisted, writes here Paderewski, that the left hand played the bass never change the power of how it plays. It should always remain the same, like the castle clock. Well, pianists play it differently. I've heard some pianists who want to interpret and they make a diminuendo of the bass. Well, this is not like Chopin wanted, and I think this is true, because you know why? Mrs. Dubois, she didn't write a book boasting of what Chopin might have said. She just told it to Paderewski in a private conversation, and later Paderewski wrote it in a book. And he was a very sincere man. He was even our first prime minister, you know. I strongly recommend to read in Wikipedia the biography of Ignacy Jan Paderewski, because it's worth it to know this person. And now I promised you to tell you how I play. Of course, as you noticed, I play just like Chopin wants, every time with the same full power, but I add something also. You know, Chopin was unlucky to die before the invention of the middle pedal of the piano. But I'm absolutely sure that if he could, he would use it here absolutely with happiness that he can. Of course, he didn't write here because there was no middle pedal in his time. But this clock, this bell, in Chopin's imagination should last until the next one. Because the right hand is changing harmonies, it's impossible to do. So Chopin writes a pedal to change a pedal where the harmony is changing. But because of that, we lose the bass. The only way to do it is to use the middle pedal. What the middle pedal does for the piano. As you know, the right pedal just sustain all the notes. The middle pedal does the same thing, but with chosen notes. We choose the note, for example this one, then we put the pedal, and this note will last forever. I mean, until it will die, but at the same time all the other notes are dampened. We still can hear. This is fascinating, this is magic, this is fantastic. And now there is an ethical question. Which there are two groups of pianists and musicians, and it comes not only with Chopin's music, but I want to talk about it. If Chopin didn't have middle pedal, are we allowed to use it in his music? Somebody will tell, absolutely not. It must be original. Chopin didn't have. We have to play like he wanted. Some other pianists, and me, for example, will say, of course, we have the middle pedal now, and we should use it wherever it will make the music better. It will make the music sound closer to the idea of the composer. In my opinion, Chopin thought that maybe one day it will be possible to keep this note. Who knows? But in his imagination, definitely it was. You know, if we decide that we are not allowed, then at the same time, I'm always telling to this pianist, look, do you play Bach? Usually they play Bach. I say, you shouldn't. If you play Bach only on the organ, harpsichord, clavichord. That's all. Bach never played on the piano. He tried once the piano, but he said he didn't like it. He didn't want to change for the piano. So he composed for other instruments. This is not a piano music. It's simple. I think that the modern piano is the modern piano. It's an instrument that we should use to the most, but of course always respecting the composer and his times. That's why I decided to use the middle pedal here for this bell and play this melody. By the way, finishing the analysis, the melody that we hear is of course again part A. So this is a kind of rondo, right? But here we have the clock. So this sounds like from another world. It's such a beautiful moment that opens our imagination. And now for those who think that Chopin never wanted his music to be connected to some images, here we have the quotation, and we have a few others that shows the opposite. Chopin had a huge imagination, but of course he didn't want to share his imagination with us. He preferred to leave it simply to the music, but his music is never about nothing. And this is absolutely sure. All the prelude ends how it started. So, like, you know, we have like two columns, or two columns is quite a good word. One column at the beginning, another at the end. It's the same. They are the same. And on them we have the whole beautiful song, which ends at night when the clock shows the 11 o'clock. Why 11? Why not 12? Why not? Maybe Chopin was afraid of the 12. You know, Chopin was afraid of ghosts. So maybe he preferred to stay with 11. Let me play one more time this beautiful music for you. Then I will feel that this episode is full, is finished. Let's imagine, just like I will, a great singer. As great singers we can imagine, and as great as I myself can imitate on the piano, because it's, as you know, almost impossible. Sorry, I have to start again because I was actually singing very beautifully, but the pianist was poor and was playing a few wrong notes because I wanted so much to play beautiful for you. I will do it again better. Okay, let's do it again. The pianist, now we change the pianist for the better one. This one is fired. thank you very much for watching until now, and I hope you have a great evening or great day after listening to this music. See you again, and bye bye.